Okay. Well, welcome to regular meeting of council. It's very loud in here today. No, I'll do it. Here we go. Just mine you're talking about, or all of them? Just mine. I just turned mine down. It's better. Okay.
Test, test. That's pretty loud.
Don't touch too much. Test, test. How's that? We're good? Okay. I wish to call order the regular meeting of council at 3:30 on the May the 10th, 4 o'clock p.m. Council would like to acknowledge Ucluelet in whose traditional territories the District of Ucluelet operates. Notice of video recording. Audience members and delegates are advised that this proceeding is being video recorded and broadcast on YouTube and Zoom, which may store data on foreign servers. Any late items? Hearing, seeing none. Looking for approval of the agenda.
So moved.
I'll second that.
All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Adoption of the April 19th, 2022 special minutes.
Move adoption.
Second.
Any errors or omissions? Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. And secondly, the approval of the minutes from April 26th, 2022.
I'll move adoption.
Second.
Any errors or omissions?
Yes. Page 16 under the temporary use permit 2066 Peninsula Road. I'm pretty sure that I didn't rescue myself. I'm pretty sure I recused myself. That made me laugh so hard when I saw that. Typos should always be that much fun.
Okay. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Public input. This is an opportunity for the members of the public to provide input. There's no speakers in the building here today, so I will move right ahead. Are there any members of the public that are on Zoom? Please use your raise your hand icon to speak, and if you're attending by telephone, please hit *9.
There are no hands raised.
Okay, thank you. And those listening in, thank you for being there. And moving ahead, is there any emails to our community input at ucluelet.ca?
There are no new emails.
Perfect, thank you, Paula. Moving on to unfinished business. Yep.
I just wanted to check that I feel I'm loud too, by the way, that we got the flag or banners for the May 17th International Day Against Homophobia and Transphobia.
I think Paula has them.
If I may, some of the products have arrived just today and others are to follow. So I believe we will have at least some kind of representation up for the 17th this year.
That's brilliant because, hate is not, you're not born hating, you're taught to hate. So every day that we can teach something different is a good thing.
Perfect. Thanks for the friendly reminder regarding that one. That's great. Anything else for you? Okay. Reports. We have two good ones today. First, we'll go with 9.1, contract approval for the Harbor Master contract. Mr. Lawrence.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Before council is a recommendation from the Harbor Authority for the authorization of a 5-year contract for a Caslin Contracting for the Harbor Master contract. The Harbor Authority reviewed the submissions. There was one submission for 42% of gross revenues collected under the Harbor Regulation Amendment Bylaw. And this is a recommendation from the Harbor Authority to award the contract.
Okay. I heard the Harbor Authority, they're a good group of people, so I'm going to feel pretty confident they did okay. So would someone like to move this recommendation?
I'm happy to do that. I've heard that same rumor. I will move that council approves option A to authorize the mayor and corporate officer to execute a 5-year contract between Caslin Contracting and the District of Ucluelet for Harbor Master Services in the amount of 42% of gross revenues collected under the District of Ucluelet Harbor Regulation Amendment Bylaw 1296/2021 plus GST as recommended by the Harbor Authority.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, great. And moving on, the next report's regarding the Strategic Priorities Fund Capital Infrastructure Grant application is provided by the Fire Chief. Welcome, Chief.
Mayor. And before we get too deep into my report here, just a couple of notes, if I may. On page 2, there's reference to EMBC, and a correction, that should be BCEHS. And then further down on that page under option A, just a note of clarification that the grant maximum is 6 million, not 7.5 million. But I just wanted to clarify those two things before we go along. So basically, I'm here today seeking council's support to apply for the 2022 Strategic Priorities Fund Capital Investment Grant, which could provide up to 100% of the eligible cost to a maximum of $6 million to fund a new fire hall. During the Committee of the Whole meeting back on March 29th, council was presented with a fire hall feasibility study and gave general direction to proceed with the investigation into the next steps for replacement of the current fire hall. And lo and behold, within a month, this grant funding opened up. So it was good timing to have the feasibility study complete. The funding itself is formerly known as a gas tax fund, and so it's new for fire departments to be eligible for this funding. Previously, they were deemed ineligible. So into analysis of options here. So timeline provided in the feasibility study is 2 years from planning to completion for a new project. The study included a Class D preliminary budget of $5.2 million to construct a new fire hall. We're working on obtaining a Class C estimate, which would be required as part of the grant application. What we're recommending is for council to direct staff to apply for the fund for up to a maximum of $6 million, but also include approved $1.5 million contribution from the district, just in case of any overages and contingencies. That is a question specifically asked on the grant application, is what is our plan for any overages and contingencies? So I think it would bode well for us to have a contingency plan in place. So the district's contribution will address the funder's requirement for this. So in the second option, so what I would be looking at, option A was to apply for the maximum 6 million plus have council approve up to 1.5 million as well for that contingency plan. So some pros of that, a successful grant application would mean up to $6 million would be provided, would significantly speed up the process of the construction of a new fire hall. This $1.5 million contribution from the district would strengthen the grant application by being able to check off that box in the application. New fire hall would be constructed at post-disaster standards, and new fire could be designed for future expansion to possibly include an ambulance station if opportunity arises. And it's important to note, and it is in the report, that this grant funding does not cover buildings such as police stations, ambulance stations are excluded from that. So I just want to make sure we're clear on that, and that we could possibly design a building, if we're successful in this grant, that could be added onto in the future if there is desire from BCHS to continue down that path and have a joint facility. So it is one of the options we're looking at. So downside of option A is an adequately sized facility would require the removal of the Clewett Athletic Club, most likely, if to rebuild on that site, as discussed in the feasibility study. And as already mentioned, a joint agency fire ambulance station is not eligible under this grant. And implications, as discussed, $1.5 million contribution may be required from the district. And then the 5-year financial plan will be amended in 2023 to construct the fire hall, potentially in 2024, 2025. Option B is to support the application, but up to a maximum of $6 million without the 1.5 contingency fund. And so cons of that is limiting the fire project to $6 million would not allow for a cost escalation in the plan. These are today's dollars. If the project costs increase beyond $6 million, the scope of work would need to be reduced. So we would have to alter the plan and downsize. Here again, the adequately sized facility would require removal of the UAC hall. And joint agency fire ambulance station is not eligible, of course. We've already mentioned that. Implications, successful grant application. Option B would mean a new fire hall for the district with no net cost to the taxpayers. If the project costs escalate, this option, if project costs escalate in this option, the scope of the project would need to be reduced to keep us within that $6 million funding. And the 5-year financial plan would be amended. And then option C, of course, is not supporting the motion to apply for this grant, in which case no motion would be required. That is the gist of my report. So my recommendations, going back to the start of the report, is that council approves option A to approve a grant application for the development of a replacement regional fire hall through the 2022 Strategic Priorities Fund Capital Investment Grant Program to a maximum of $7.5 million, and that council provides overall grant management, and that council provides up to $1.5 million towards the fire hall project. And those are necessities in order to apply for the grant. So today, basically, I'm looking for a resolution of council support to apply for the grant. And I'll gladly take any questions council has.
Well, thank you, Chief. I'll pass it on to any councillors who have any questions. Councillor McEwen?
Just a comment that it's amazing that grant opportunity appeared just after the committee of the whole meeting. It's like fortuitous. So well done on that one.
Through the mayor, I wish I could say I planned that, but it was entirely luck of the draw.
It's better to have luck than skill. We all
Literally
know that,
showed up
so
in my
it's-
email
oh.
and I couldn't believe it. So
Councillor Horn?
I'm just curious, Chief, if you have a sense, since fire halls haven't previously been eligible, if everybody is going to go in for fire halls, and does that mean that we are in a fierce competition?
through the mayor, I have no indication either way on that. I do know Banfield is looking to upgrade, within our region, of course. But yeah, honestly, I don't know. I would imagine this would be highly subscribed. It's very rare for grants of this nature to come by that specifically qualifies for an entire new facility, possibly. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't really have any feeling or inclination on what that might look like.
That being said, nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Sure.
Through the mayor to chief. So when you did the feasibility study, there was a plan with that. Is that what you are going to apply for the grant with that plan?
Through the mayor, the site plan specifically, you mean?
Mm-hmm.
Not necessarily. The drawings that were included in the feasibility study were simply a mock-up to replicate the fact that what the community most likely needs to suit our needs now and in the future would actually fit on that parcel of land. The actual layout may be slightly different. That was just strictly we know we need, with 24 firefighters, we need a turnout gear room of such and such size. We know we need so many bathrooms, things like that. So that's what the drawings on the feasibility study, just a real rough representation of what our needs most likely are.
Okay. So where did the $6 million come from? The budget for $6 million, where did that come? Where did you get that from?
Well, the feasibility referred to cost of about $5.28 million to replace that hall.
Mm-hmm.
Those numbers were, the feasibility study, when it started, was about a year old now. So this is mainly due to supply and inflation that I think it's a safe assumption that it would most likely cost more than $5.28 million at this point to replace it. So and we figure we might as well, if we're going for a grant, we might as well ask for the entire allotment.
And when you go for a grant, do you need the whole plan for that? Like what if we need how big, how many trucks, that kind of thing?
We need to provide a site plan, yes, with a Class C estimate is our intention. So, which still has room for interpretation. It would give the funders a good representation of what we feel we need for the community, but might not necessarily reflect the exact building at that point.
Okay. And at that time, when the grant is accepted, let's be positive, is that the time that the district is going to talk with BC Ambulance about construction on that site as well, to include that?
Through the mayor, I'll defer that one to Mr. Lawrence, if I may.
The intent would be that if council is supporting this application to the granting program, we could reach out to BC Ambulance Service to start those discussions. Nothing would be finalized until we get word on the grant. But the design that the fire chief and I and the director of finance have been talking about would allow for expansion as well. So there's a couple of options that we could utilize, and because it's a Class C based on a high level design at this point in time, we have lots of room to move within the design parameters. So we would reach out to BC Ambulance fairly quickly in the process to engage them to see if it's of interest to the organization, and if they support it, then we would work with them to integrate that into the project. It's important to note that the grant can't cover off any of the BC Ambulance portion of the building, EOCs or anything like that. So it'd have to be covered by BC Ambulance somehow. And that would be up for discussion and investigation with the BC Ambulance Service.
Okay, thank you.
End of the day, I'm very supportive of this. This is obviously the reason why we committed funds here to get this whole ball started last year. So, I think it's sobering when you see that there's a possibility. The 1.5 seems like a reasonable ask. Obviously, there are a lot of steps because there would be engagement if we're successful. This would be all coming back to the council at some point about future plans if we're successful. There'll be lots of rooms for feedback, or how would this work? Once the 1.5 is committed here and they're giving an allowance, is it they're off to the races if they happen to be successful in this grant, or how does that work?
Through the mayor, yes, there would be a certain amount of engagement. At the end of the day, though, we have to really ensure it does meet the department's needs for operations. But yes, there definitely would be input from council and from public.
Okay, perfect. I won't hold up the process here. I think it's great. This is what we wanted last year, and a grant came available. So there you go. Thank you.
I will move that council approves option A to approve a grant application for the development of a replacement regional fire hall through the 2022 Strategic Priorities Fund Capital Investment Grant Program to a maximum of $7.5 million, and that council provides overall grant management, and that council provides up to $1.5 million towards the fire hall project.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Well, that's
Thank you very much.
wish you luck there. Since we're talking about fire halls, I do have a obviously when we talk about what the fire hall really needs and what you need and what the community needs, I have given you all a suggested motion there, if you don't mind, just regarding perhaps getting a third party to hire a third party to look at service levels and equipment and requirements for as our community grows. So I think really this will, for me, just give a sense of comfort as we're going down this path of a new fire hall, and really what are the implications here as the community grows. So if you don't mind, I would like to move that council direct staff to include funding to undertake a fire services review for consideration within the 2023 budget.
Second.
Is there any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Perfect. Thanks, Chief.
Thank you.
Any notices of motion? No. Okay. Correspondence. Does anybody like to pull any of them out? Do you want me to go through them individually? Or is there a couple that are screaming at you? 11.4 I'd like to discuss.
Yes, that was the one.
I believe 11.3.
Okay.
Councillor Cole was
Yeah.
sent a note earlier. Sorry, just pulling it up.
Yep. Take your time.
She is in van for work before that the conference that's the Climate Leaders Institute conference, and so was interested in attending the last couple days. She wouldn't catch the first day. I would attend it, except unfortunately I cannot take that particular week. And I would do it virtually, but they don't have a virtual component now, so.
So should we make a motion to have Councillor Cole attend this conference? Yeah.
There you go.
I will move that Councillor Cole attend the Climate Leaders Institute conference June 8th to 10th in Vancouver, as much as she is able.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you. Anything in 11.2 for anybody? Reusable bags? Moving. We're getting lots of emails about that one. Moving on to 11.4, if you don't mind, regarding the letter from Toloquit. I just make a simple recommendation that we forward this to Tourism Ucluelet and to their board to have that discussion.
I will second that.
And Mr. Lawrence, do you have any comments regarding that?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe that the Toloquit First Nation is also sending a letter of the similar nature to all of the local municipalities as well as tourism boards, so Tourism Tofino and Tourism Ucluelet. So they're seeking support from all the different organizations out there to support their Guardian program to address the dispersed camping challenges that the peninsula is facing.
Just a comment that in the letter it says that they have enough money to run the program to mid-June, but they're looking for an additional 100,000 to run the program for the entire summer tourism season. So, and they're requesting a portion of the resort municipality funding that the districts of Ucluelet and Tofino receive. So would that be through the district or through the tourism Ucluelet, through the mayor to staff?
Through the mayor. So if council were to support this, the RMI funding goes towards the district, comes to the district of Ucluelet. The MRDT is a different pot of money that goes straight to Tourism Ucluelet. So if council were to consider supporting the request, there's two different or a couple of different pots that that council could consider. One is the RMI funding. There is an allowance that staff have discussed that was to support the moving of Tourism Ucluelet and find them office space. I think there was $10,000 for 3 years that they have not accessed, which could be utilized to support this if it was council's prerogative. Otherwise, forwarding this on to Tourism Ucluelet for consideration, it would go before their board for possible funding as a program under one of their initiatives.
When I read this letter, I just felt there was a lot of unanswered questions in this letter about like what exactly their business plan is and what their budget for the money would be for. I just feel that I would like to ask some of those questions before we made a decision, if any.
If I may, I was part of the discussions at the CAO meetings that we have on a regular basis. So I can answer some of them, but we could also put an invitation out to the Toloquit to come out and speak to council specifically about the Guardian program, if it's council's desire. they have been successful in acquiring funding for some ATVs, storage containers, and the first 6 to 8 weeks worth of oversight for 2 members to be trained up and provide 7 days a week coverage of the area that is around Kennedy Lake. They're struggling now to find additional resources. I believe they allocated a certain amount of internal funding as well to help fund that for wages, and now they're looking for any avenue to access additional funds to ensure that access to the back country is maintained in an orderly fashion. The concern is that we have another incident like we did last year where concerned members of the Tloquit Nation blockade the access to the back country, creating more challenges. So what they're looking for is regional support to attempt to address the ongoing challenges with the backcountry and dispersed camping.
Thank you. I just think it's really important that this continue beyond the middle of June, because that's just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah, if you don't mind, I was going to call that to question because it was motion regarding sending this forward to TU, because I do want to dive into what Mr. Lawrence is talking about, if you don't mind. So just all in favor? Opposed, carried. And then now you've given us the bonus round, which I wasn't aware of, and I guess I should have brought that up with you this morning, Mr. Lawrence, was, I was out there quite a bit last summer with what was going on. I think a lot of us, fire services, and if there is a way to fund this, I think that I don't think at $30,000 or $50,000, if there is something available through our RMI that we can do that to support this. I think it's long overdue, and I think out of good faith towards this program, they've been asking for some help, and we're into May, and I think it would be appropriate if there is that $30,000 that is sitting around, and if there's
10,000.
oh, that was 10 every year.
No.
I always hear what I want to hear.
Sorry,
10,000.
through the
Yeah.
the mayor, I might I might ask the director of finance to come up and speak to it directly, and we'll get it correct.
Perfect.
Afternoon. So this was before your time, Mr. Lawrence. So that's why you're not knowing the whole picture. It was a couple of years ago. There was a council motion for $10,000 a year for 3 years to be put aside. What it wasn't RMI funds. It was tax dollars collected for the purposes of economic development. So we had put it aside into reserves to assist Tourism Ucluelet in finding a new location. So as Mr. Lawrence said, they haven't accessed that money. So that was one solution that I thought of, that it's we've got 20,000 of it. We don't have the extra 10 yet because we haven't sent out the tax notices this year, but we do have 20 sitting in reserve. So if that's something you wanted to consider, that would be under there's no new money. That would be a way to help out with that if they're not going to access the funds.
That's very creative, and I appreciate you bringing that forward.
I think that's a great way to, but I would like to see a proper financial plan and budget from the tribal park to be able to see how that money is spent for that season before giving away.
Mr. Mayor, I believe that in your agenda package there is a motion included in the package behind the letter.
I didn't see one. Okay. We're getting there. So pressure's on me here. Silencing. Yeah, there's a couple motions here which are suggesting, but it's more or less allocating a certain amount of funds. Listening to what Councillor Kemp says, you would feel more comfortable before making a motion with a certain figure to get a bit more information from Toloquia, correct?
Yes.
So
Yes.
I think we're all supportive, and perhaps that'll give us some time to figure out what that funding is available to us. So would you like to make a motion to invite Toloquia to come to a council meeting in order to explain a bit more detail about what they're doing so you feel comfortable about this?
Or write a letter to be able to figure out their plan. What would probably be easier for a letter for them to give us their financial plan and budget.
Through the mayor, we could, if council wants, just direct staff to request a Guardian program budget from the Toloquia Nation, and then we could bring that back to council for consideration at the next meeting.
Okay.
And then council can determine an allocation if it is council's prerogative to support the request.
Okay.
I'm just going to point out that they have offered to appear as a delegation and to provide us any information. It's the last line of their letter, right?
Yeah.
So, I don't see why it would be a problem to invite them, but reaching out to them, yeah.
I will make a motion to invite Toloquia Nation to a council meeting to talk about the Tribal Parks Alliance for the backroads.
Second?
Okay. Any further discussion? All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, great. It'd be a good start to start helping them out. Okay, that was 11.4. Are there any others that'd like to get pulled out? Yep.
11.5, there is a $500 grant available to put on a little event of some sort on June 4th. With Miss Fortune being away on holidays, I'm not sure if she'll have time to pull anything together, but through the mayor to staff, perhaps it's worth the ask.
Through the mayor, I can forward this on to the parks team, and see what they can do with it. But you're correct, Miss Fortune is away on holidays, so probably wouldn't be able to put something together herself. But her team might be able to follow up on something.
Thank you.
I'll bring out 11.6. For the appointment of Nyla, it would be nice to send a nice congratulations and welcome card from the mayor and staff for her new position
With an umbrella.
with an umbrella that we don't have.
Yep, I'll second that one. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Is that it for everyone? And thank you, Mr. Presley. I think we've talked about that in our budget and how we're dealing with that.
11.7.
Mm-hmm.
We could talk about 11.7. I don't know if Denise is on the Zoom call to
Conference.
Oh, okay. I was just wondering what the case is with all the other DMOs. Are they gradually transferring this status to the DMO from the districts through the mayor to staff?
I wouldn't be able to answer that at this point in time. If this is something that council wishes staff to investigate further, then a recommendation to direct staff to investigate and bring a follow-up report would probably be the best move forward. At this time, I think it would be premature for staff to be able to comment on it.
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, I'll make a motion that staff look into the this designated recipient status transfer to Tourism Ucluelet and come back to council with a report.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? I'll just make a comment. I'm really hesitant of supporting something like that. I look forward to the staff report. It's because it's like one less. It's nice to have the input from this table with Trismeau Hewlett, and I do see a lot of communities that struggle between their council table and their DMO. So, but I'll look forward to the staff report. So, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Do you have another one? Okay. Thanks for bringing that up. It's cold in here. Windows are open. Yeah, yeah. We got a little brave there when the sun came out. Mayor's announcements. I think the big one is obviously the Porsche Club's in this weekend, and all the volunteer fire department and crews. That's a big weekend for them. So make sure you get out. And on Friday there is the community seafood barbecue with a bonfire at Big Beach. Hopefully they're going to have sunny weather. Huh? What's that mean?
He's like small.
Small what?
Fire. He was
Oh,
on
okay.
fire.
We'll bring some tires and stuff down there, like good old days. So we're looking forward to that, and obviously pancake breakfast the next morning, and followed by a Porsche parade from Black Rock to Peninsula Road on Sunday morning. So
Rain or shine.
lots of activity. Do they not do the out at the airport anymore? And
Yeah, they
they're
are
still doing that.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Welcome, welcome.
Thank you.
And moving on to council committee reports. Councillor McEwen.
Thank you. Just attended the Harbour Authority meeting May 2nd. That was my only meeting.
Okay. Councillor Kemps.
The school district Sembany sent out a proposal for the old band room for a daycare. So there's a couple, I've been talking with some of the daycare board. They are going to, for the children's center, they are asking for an extension. The deadline for submission was May 18th, so it was really quick turnaround. Well, not strange, but they're going to ask for an extension. There's a little bit of hesitancy about taking this on. It's as you can see, it's a very big proposal, and it's a lot to take on with our labor shortage right now, because we're also finding that with the Child Care Society. So the question was also posed to SD70. I still haven't heard back about what would happen to the space if no proposals were submitted. We don't want to lose this, so we're kind of creeping along. We could actually write a proposal for this and then have it grow over the years while our staffing levels come up. But it would mean a lot to our community and a lot more spaces for our community. So hopefully that will come to fruition very soon. Yeah, that is it. Mako stole my shine with the Porsche Club. Yeah, that's okay. But just a reminder that this is a big fundraiser for the fire department, and rain or shine for the breakfast and the seafood barbecue down at Big Beach.
Thank you. And Councillor Hoare.
Did he steal your show and shine? All right, we did Harbor Authority. On May 4th, I attended the Wild Pacific Trail Society, and they have hired a new naturalist, Gemma, who is starting, she's done the transition stuff, and she is starting to look at new programs, and she's got some really interesting ideas. She and I got off on an ethnobotany conversation, which could be really cool. So I look forward to seeing what comes up. The other thing is that the society is making some signage, because there's been an issue along the Ancient Cedars Trail, and I just want to bring this up because I think it's important. So everybody wants to get close to the big cedars. Everybody wants their picture taken with the big cedars, and maybe with their arms wrapped around it or whatever. But that is actually damaging the salal and the various vegetation around the base of the cedars. And if you step on roots, you actually damage the roots. And because now around a lot of these big cedars, there's actually almost no vegetation, and that vegetation is protective. So the society is working on some signage to try and encourage people to not step off the trail and onto that vegetation and not damage the roots of those great big trees, because we want them to be here for a very long time. Okay, so take off environmental hat. On May 7th, I went to the Historical Society plant sale, and being a crazy plant mama, I was like the first person in line, all eager beaver. and got a whole bunch of plants, and they had a really good turnout. And you can tell that we have had a cold spring because the plants were like much smaller. I'm used to seeing Mike's tomatoes be like 8 inches tall, and they were like 3. Yeah, but there was lots of good stuff. There were lots of people, and I missed out on the silent auction for they had a George Fraser Heritage Roto. Man, I was back in that place 3 times to like up my bid, but I still got outbid. Anyway, bummer. And then I'm going to just throw a little piece of, environmental info out there. I gave Councillor Cole these wonderful little bamboo versions of the toothpicks that everybody uses. And if you walk along our streets, they are on the ground everywhere. The plastic ones, they now exist in bamboo in our pharmacy at the co-op. But one of our public works people pointed something out to me the other day. Cigarette butts, and then the number 2 thing that they're picking up are those little plastic, I didn't bring one with me, bread bag ties. Those little flat pieces of plastic. Those are everywhere. And he noticed when he was doing his shopping, one of the bread companies has now gone to cardboard. We think it's a test because it's only one of them. Anyway, so something to watch for. And just maybe reuse those ties, like do what you can, because every little bit of plastic on the ground is not a good thing. Okay. I must have put my environmental hat back on. Sorry.
Thank you and good timing. Welcome, Councillor Cole.
Sorry for my
Every other
tardiness.
duty you have. Did you ride over?
No, I did not ride over. I rode an ambulance over. I just want to say thank you for and they come in fresh mint, and it does say at the bottom, it says, great for tight teeth. I think if you have loose teeth, it might be too late for flossing. You should probably, but that's just a marketing thing, I think. Thank you for those. Without having my notes in front of me, I know that I was pulled away from the ACRD meeting for a call last week, so I wasn't able to attend the full meeting. I had the Coastal Family Resource Coalition meeting last week, and lots of lovely updates, lots of stuff going to be happening in the community this spring, starting with a walking group again with hospice, and a lot of exciting initiatives with youth and our senior population coming up. So I'll have more to report on that at a later date. We did the harbor thing, and now it's Tuesday, and here we are. That's all I got.
Thank you. It's been quiet other than the health clinic. I think everyone's been well aware of what we've been taking on that battle. So we're publicly, I could say that, we're getting a little bit of attention, and hopefully in the near future here, we'll be able to go back to the community with something positive. So we'll see what comes out of that. And thank you everybody for your support. So that's good. Question period. Again, it's an opportunity for the public to ask any questions and provide comments on items that have been addressed on today's agenda. Items not related on today's agenda will not be heard. So going to Zoom, is there any hands up via Zoom?
There are no hands up via Zoom and no callers.
Thank you. And lastly, are there any emails to communityinput@uqlit.ca?
There are no.
Okay. We have a closed session scheduled this evening, so I will now move that the meeting be closed to the public in order to address agenda items under the following sections of the Community Charter. Section 91I, the receipt of advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. And Section 91K, negotiations and related discussions respecting the proposed provision of municipal service that are at their preliminary stages and that, in the view of council, could reasonably be expected to harm the interests of the municipality if they were held in public. At this time, we will recess for 10 minutes to allow the clerk a moment to prepare for the closed portion of the meeting.
I'll second that motion.
Thank you. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.